In a Python, everything is an object, and files are also objects. Let's learn what is file handling, how file operations are done in Python. Input output operations are with files, how it is done in Python. So there are basically two types of files. Two types of files that are text, text, and what is the other one? Binary. Binary. So how do you open a file? Because let's say that I have a I have this some superman.jpg, it's this file, and I wanted to see what is inside. How do I open that one? I double click on that one and I can see it. And if I want to make any modifications, probably I may use actually raster editor, Photoshop or GIMP. How to open that in that software and can make some modifications, cropping and color correction. So to make some modifications, I need to open that file. To see what is inside, I need to open that file. Let's name this one. This is untitled file IO in Python. So how do you open this? How to open a file? This is question. Open a file in Python. So to open a file, what do we use? We use now we have just a simple open function. That is a Python built-in functions. If I go to Python built-in functions, and there is something called open here. You see this one, open. It is a built-in function, and it takes a bunch of this is what its signature is. It takes a first one, file name and mode, buffering, encoding, all. No? So remaining all are actually default arguments, as you can see. What is meant by default arguments? You don't have to pass them. If you don't pass, they are default to what is specified there. So we use open built-in function is used to open files in a different modes. That is to either read, that is to either read or write, or for both. So what is the signature of open function? This is a signature of open function. See which one is the first one is file, second one is mode, third one is buffering, encoding, errors. And these are all default arguments. So we don't have to pass them because we are actually obligated to pass positional argument, which is only one positional argument is there, which is a file. It returns what? It returns file object. It returns a file object. And let's check here. And what are different modes then? We have actually mode. What is the default mode? Read. So then what are different modes? Modes of operations or different modes. So different default one is read. What is default one? Yes. So read is by default. If R is specified, file would be opened for reading. And basically, instead of a typing table, let me first list out what are different modes. That is or. Different modes are R, A, W, X. Okay, and there are actually two different modes that are primarily that are T and B. X is exclusive. Okay, X stands for, and we can write. We have other modes such as uh, plus. We can combine this. Yeah, plus. No, there is no minus. Okay. Yeah. Yes. For suppose. Yeah. We can default mode is R, which is equivalent to which is RT. Okay, so by default, uh, mode is actually a text mode. Okay, and we have other mode. We can combine a plus with modes like where if you want to write, if you want to plus indicates that open for reading and writing. Okay, so where R for reading, if W for yeah writing, and but there is a one thing here, W for writing, but truncates the first truncates the file, so which means that replaces the content, replaces the content or truncates. So if file exists, if you open a file in write mode, that whole content is gone. Okay, and X is for uh, which is exclusive, open for exclusive creation. So which means that open file exclusively for creation. So which means that it will fail if file exists. So whereas a previous W doesn't work like that. Where if file exists, it will truncate. This is what file exists, replaces content or truncates. Whereas append mode, what is append mode? Opens write for a append. So which means that a file is open for writing, and the where content is appended at the end. Whereas the for a write mode, content starts from the beginning. So since if file exists, it will replace. So that always from the beginning this way. Okay, always from beginning. This is what it is. And we have actually plus mode. What is plus mode? The plus is basically open file for both reading and writing. How it works? How to use plus, where you can combine where W plus. This is what a default is, right? The where how do you combine plus? The you can append a plus with other things. Where you see this one. Uh, you know, to make sure that we know the difference here, T for a text, yeah, T for text mode, and B for binary. So W plus stands for what? Open file for both reading and for both writing and reading. Okay. Or R plus, there are differences. R plus the same as open file for both reading and writing. We will see those differences, and we can combine these things. Okay, where if you want actually in a binary mode, we have actually we can do W plus B. W plus B. What is that? What that? What does it mean? W plus B means open, but it is just in a binary mode. Okay, same as a W plus, but in a binary mode. And whereas this R, whatever you have here, R plus B, which is same as R plus, but in a binary mode. So we have like that, we have different modes. Okay. Do you understand or any questions here? So where do you use text mode and where do you use read binary mode? So basically any text, just notepad, that would be simply a text mode. But if you take any images, videos, okay, which is non-text, whatever you see here, if you take our image Superman, if you right click and open that in a notepad, and what do you see there? You see nothing here, nothing for this image, but this which a text random bytes, that are rendered and that looks like garbage, because we don't understand, because it is the internally how these bits are stored, and what that makes up we don't know. But that when that is actually rendered, when we see an image, because that image, whatever the bits that are there, according to far stored according to certain format, they make up actually the pixels. They fill up the pixels with the particular color in a order, so such that image is formed. For suppose here, so how this works, if you zoom, and there is actually pixel, small tiny box that makes up this area, and that color is actually here skin color, others it is blue color, so just like tiles, just like a grid, they all are uh, rendered. The how they are actually, what color each pixel is, that is what actually the internal file format is text, and those are actually binary, and that is where we use yes, binary mode. So for a binary mode, we use this R plus P and W plus P, and like that. And so now let's open our file. Let's open some random file, okay, for a reading. Okay, open a file. So what we have learned here, that if you open a file, what happens? This is where I'm trying to open a file. Here are file operations. So file f equal to open of. Let's give, I have to give file name, right? There are two names, absolute and relative. Relative is always with respect to the current working directory. Path can be, file path can be, file path can be either absolute or relative. If relative, we can specify the file path with respect to or relative to current working directory, and absolute path should be specified from the root directory. So what are examples absolute path? Example of absolute path, which is uh, OPT and workspace, files, ex, something, my image.jpg, which is absolute path. Example of absolute path. So what is relative path? If suppose if I'm in my current working directory, assume current working directory is files, I can specify relative path as ex image, my image.py. Okay, that is what relative path is. So I'm giving some path here, Superman, Wonder Woman, okay, or txt. And what I will get, what is the default mode? Yeah, default mode is read text. What happens if I type and you see, there you go, file not found error. And if you see this error, what means that if that this kind of error occurs during the execution of any file or program, that will crash, app will crash, it doesn't go further or move further. So we don't want these things to happen, so that we do the exception handling. What kind of exception? Here we got file not found error. So because I'm trying to open, so what this is what happens for reading. So if you try to open a file, okay, rises error if file doesn't exist. So that is what it is with the read. So we need that file to be actually there. Okay. So do you understand? But for suppose if I open this, what are files? What files are there? Uh, so let's put a file signature here. So this is about the file path we specify here. Let's say that previously we have seen that we get an error f equal to open off if we give wonder woman.txt, and we get error. Why? Because that file does not exist. And let's say that if I give f equal to, and there is no such a variable f. Why? Because when we try, then when Python tried to open this file and we got an error right here. So that the variable is actually no concept of that variable, because this variable is never initialized, so that we get the name error if you try to use f. And let's say that if I try to open uh, Superman, who are there inside, and you show import OS, and from using OS I can write some OS dot system commands ls, and you can see there is actually uh, file IO. This is one file in Python, and superman.jpg. Two files are here, right, in my current working directory. So this is OS is used, this module is used to perform operations. It provides API to work with the OS specific APIs that is actually creating a sub process and the running command uh, or doing other path specific operations like that. So and let's say that what is this is a relative path. Do you understand what is my current working directory? And we have actually command to for a current working directory. So we can let's print that one. Print directory, which is hello. You have any questions? So there's dot format of voice dot get cwd is the command which will print current working directory. And there is another module called os dot path, and we can import that as well. Import os dot path as a path. What it does, it provides a common common functions to work with the path, where if you give a path, it provides absolute path for that one. And what is a dir name, and it provides actually the metadata associated with any file or a folder. And you have actually for this OS, we have actually instead of we can choose to run this system call, or we have actually list dir or change dir. So now let's run this one. And what is current working directory? You can see here the volumes, workspace, tutor, Python, notebooks, files. What is this? This is absolute path, right? And this is a current working directory. And the whatever you see here, superman.jpg, which is a relative path with respect to this working directory files, because these are directly inside that. And if I want actually, I can get the absolute path as a path dot, we can have actually abs path, which abs path function available on this path library. So where's that path library? And using as, I actually imported this as a alias. So path dot abs path, and I give this superman.jpg, and you can see here it printed this absolute path. And we can choose to pass a file name, and let me print this here, absolute path of superman jpg. And we made a mistake here somewhere, and you see here, and these are the files inside that current working directory, which is this is what current working directory is. And inside that superman and file library we have here, and this is absolute path. Now as it said, and if I try to open a file which is doesn't not exist, I'm giving this relative path, and I get error, because default mode is read. As we have seen that for read mode, if file does not exist, we get an error, we get an exception. And if I want to change the mode, I can pass, since that mode is actually second argument itself, second parameter itself, I can simply pass w, or I can pass it as a keyword arguments. So which is w. If I put w, if file does not exist, what happens? It will create a file. And you see what f is here? Type of f, which is a text IO wrapper. So which is a type, which is a file object basically. Okay. So and you can actually check f dot class, and what class it is, and what is the instance. All of them we can, as we have whatever we have learned, we can check. And what are different methods of file object. And you see what we have learned, dir of f gives all methods and attributes, right? Dir of, I don't want these magic methods, so that removing them, I want to print only whatever, the actual methods are. What I can do, I can iterate it over for I in dir of, and if I dot starts with, we have a function, right? Starts with underscore underscore, all we do is actually continue. So I don't want to print anything, otherwise print I. And we can print some help message with that particular uh, method as well, where how do we print, okay, where I is a text, where you can actually, what is called, we have something called help of, let's say I'll show you that one. And let's see first where, for suppose help of f dot buffer. You see help message, how that particular method works, what is the signature, what it does. And we have here, so since I opened that in a file write mode, and when we open a file, there is something called file pointer, okay, which points at what position it is. So which means that, cursor, think of it as a cursor. Got it? So at what, when you open that file, the where cursor is placed, which is at the beginning of the file. So that we can actually see the where cursor is placed, where cursor is, because always whatever you enter, that is added from the place where the file pointer is, or a file object refers to, points to. So, and that we can get that thing using seek. We have what are some methods we can see here? We have something called a seek. Can you see what seek does? The file position or file pointer. So can see our file object is f seek, and oh sorry, not f dot seek, tell. Seek tells, seek changes file position, okay, or file pointer position. Seek, yeah, it places cursor wherever we want. Seek, okay. Tell method tells where the cursor position is, where that file pointer is. So uh, where that pointer is, from where that whatever we write actually is written. For suppose I have actually text hello, welcome to Python, and you have what is a size of this, length of this text, 24, right? 24. So ideally if it is ASCII, one character takes 1 byte. Okay, so 24 characters means 24 bytes. So if I write f dot, to write, what do we use? We have something a method called write. Okay, so is this readable? Can I actually do the f dot read? I get actually operation, unsupported operation error. Why? This file is not open for reading. This is open for writing. This is open for writing. So since this is open for writing only, I can't read it. And we can check that whether it is readable, false, writable. We can check using those methods. Since it is writable, I can write f dot write text. And now you see that this write method, what write method does, it returns how many characters are successfully returned to the file, 24. And if I go back here, if I open this Wonder Woman, you see that that file is created here, Wonder Woman.txt. And if I open that one, and you may see this is empty because we haven't closed this file yet. Okay. And when we close, because when we don't close a file, that content, whatever we write, that is actually buffered. And if we want to force that thing, write those buffered bits that are in a RAM, and if we want those bits to be written to the disk, and we can do something called flush. So what this flush does, it will force bits to be written onto the disk. And since I did flush, and if I open this thing, and you can see here, hello, welcome to Python. And you know the escape sequence characters. And let's do that thing. Let's write more. Okay. And now let's see, find out current position, file position. How do you find out that? How do you find out where the cursor is? Yes, we use f.10. So it returns that current position of a file object. And in some other languages, we refer that as a file pointer. Think of it as a cursor. So the way the file position is, file object's position. So f.tell, which returns. Can you see 24? Why is it 24? So like I said, as it is ASCII encoding, so one character takes up 1 byte, and total how many? So 24 bytes. You know, it is at the 24. So whatever I write here, f.write, and I want actually new line. So I wrote the new line. Okay. And then f.write. Wonder Woman is a DC character. And new line, f.write. She is from Amazon race. And how much, this is from the last. Don't be actually confused, because whatever the number it is written, that is actually this cell returns from the last statement. No, it doesn't return from the previous statement. So very last statement actually wrote 24, 23 by 23, 20 bytes. Okay. Yeah, in a cell, in a cell. Yeah, in a cell. In a cell, it returns that whatever the in output, it shows the last line output. Previous line's output is not displayed in a cell in a notebook. Okay. So whereas write function always returns how many bytes are successfully written to the file. Okay. So do you understand? Any questions? There is no such a function here. Okay? Append here. We don't have any such a append. Append is a mode. So append is a mode. So what is typically the size of this file? Size of this file? Yeah, yeah. Size on disk. Previously we wrote 24 bytes and the 23. And what is the length of this one? The length of this one. Just check. What is the length? Just we're doing that to calculate. 30, 24, 23. 24 plus 23 plus 30 plus, and the new line is also one character, 78. And there is actually, and this OS module provides those statistics, that API to work with the files and folders, and to call OS specific APIs calls to make and to execute commands. And we have this provides the pretty much good API call. So pretty much API call, which is os.stat, and q the file f, and we have this. mm, we have here for file object we have something called name, which provides that what is file name. Okay, so os.stat of f dot name. And can you see the statistics here? This OS module is providing us actually a function to get the statistics of and the metadata. And can you see here there is something called when this is what is a mode, and link, and user ID, group ID, and the size, which is 24. Why is still 24 size is 24 here? Remember, so here, so 23 plus 30 plus and 1, so 54 bytes were actually written. They are actually buffered, right? They are not written onto the disk. These statistics are from the disk. And this, if you want that files that content to be written, we can actually close, either flush or close the file. And it is a good practice to close the file always. Okay, and if you close the file, you can't read or write. So if you try to actually read or write something, test writing, and you get something called IO error because you are performing operation on closed file. Okay, so you can't do that. And this is the best practice to close our file. So once our operation is done, and if I do os.stat again f.name, and you see here 79 objects, which is good, which is the same as whatever we did here, 78. Probably we missed another new line character here, so that two new line characters, and 79 objects, which is 79 bytes. Can you see here? So, and likewise we actually, but this is quite hard. Still you can make a, you can actually read the metadata about files when last modified, last opened, created time, and user ID, group ID, permissions, and you see c time is created, m time modified, and a time access time. This is all metadata as well as the size on this. So doing that, we need to write all together, separate a small project, reading about that data. But instead of doing that heavy lifting, our goal is not to create a module or library to read the metadata. We have actually a library, that our standard library, batteries, Python comes with batteries included. We have a OS module, and that has a pretty much uh, elegant stat function that if we pass name of the file or path, relative or absolute, we get that these metadata. And you can see here size is 79 bytes. And this is how, if you want to actually read the same file, f read equal to open, and which is wonder woman.txt, and that is for read, which is by default read t. And you can see fr dot, if I read everything, and you see all together m equal to, and I can print m, such that we can see that, pretty much. Oh, what is this? And if I, you can see this thing here, right? So, but anything fr, I can't write anything to fr. Hello. It is not actually, it is open for a writable, for a readable, in a read text mode only.